Hello and welcome. Now in this video, we're going to be talking about the optimal computer setup, and that is to use multiple screens if you're not doing that already. One of the first things that best practice when you are using Camtasia 9 is that you make the use of multiple screens, and that can be the screen on your laptop as well as a monitor. It can be the screen on your desktop as well as another monitor. It can be two monitors. The fact of the matter is that you need to make use of multiple screens if you're going to be most effective in screencasting. And making those monitors available and making them work with your operating system is very easy to do in Windows and Mac. In fact, Windows and Mac operating systems make accommodations for people who use multiple screens. They anticipate that you're going to make use of multiple screens. An additional monitor is not expensive, so probably you're talking in the area of $50 used, maybe $100 new. Typically, an additional monitor can be picked up for as little as $50 used and $100 new. Now, you're going to want to purchase as high of a resolution that you can when you get the monitor. And we're going to say that at minimum, you should be looking for 1920 by 1080 pixels. That is probably the standard at which you're going to be producing videos and that you want to edit your videos. And if you have a laptop that has that resolution, then you want to be able to use your screen effectively using the same resolution. Here's what multiple screens do. They allow you to toggle back and forth between notes and screens and other things that will help you to create your video. For example, you're looking at the recording toolbar here, and we have been able to move this back and forth due to the multiple screen environment. And what this does is this allows you to focus on what you are describing, and it also gives you some alternatives, especially when you're using the screenwriting tools and everything else that you're going to be using as you start to screencast. In fact, it's going to make it very easy for you to be able to do PowerPoint videos. And one of the things that you have probably noticed, and maybe you noticed in one of the previous videos in the basic course, is that you can switch back and forth between the presenter view as well as the display view. And this really does help you to be able to monitor where you are. So for example, you were looking at a slide presentation, and when you have a multiple screen environment, you can actually look over to the right and know what's coming next. You can actually start to plan in your mind as to what you're actually going to be saying about what you're going to be describing to your audience. And this is especially helpful when you're screencasting. But we're going to go ahead and switch back to the presenter view. Of course, if you can make use of 3 monitors, you can be even more efficient because you can spread some of the load across 3 monitors and be effective. In some case, if you have a document you're referring to during your PowerPoint presentation, as well as having that PowerPoint staging area, as well as having your presentation, again, taking advantage of multiple screens is a very effective way of being able to use Camtasia. And this does not have to be expensive or fancy. You can have something as simple as an old monitor as well as an old laptop. The most important thing when you are projecting and when you are presenting is that you have these multiple screens. And as long as they can be side by side and be next to each other, this will allow you to toggle back and forth and to be able to refer to things and to be able to be effective when you are communicating. Okay, so with that, thanks, and I will see you in another video. Welcome back. Now, in this best practices video, we're going to be talking about making sure that your recording computer is going to be at eye level. Now, if you're going to appear in your tutorial videos on camera, that means whether you're going to appear fully as the subject of the video or whether or not you're going to appear in the corners we've talked about. You need to make sure that your computer is going to be at eye level, and mainly you want to make sure that your camera is going to be at eye level, because whenever you are actually going to be talking to your audience, you should be looking directly into the eye of the camera because that will then give the effect that you are actually talking to them. One of the things that is difficult about screencasting is that you can often, without necessarily trying to do so, look in a different direction. You can look off to the side, and it is distracting to the people who are actually watching your video. So two things that you need to do. Number one, make sure that you're going to bring your computer to eye level, and then wherever your webcam is, you want to make sure that you are able to look directly into it so that you can be direct and connecting with the people who are going to be watching. Now, this whole setup is important for reading and navigational purposes too. So if you are actually scrolling through your points when you're talking on PowerPoint, it's more effective if you can see them and that they're at eye level. If you're not looking up at them, you're not looking too far down at them. Having them directly in front of them is very important. Now, in order to get your computer to eye level, you can purchase items from office supply stores, or you can use books to stack until you get to the right height. Now, once you discover the right height, that needs to be a short-term solution. So all you're doing with the books is you're determining how high it is. You want to measure that. You want to know exactly how tall that is, because that's what you're going to go and take to the office supply store. In the long term, the kind of solution that you want is going to be something that allows your laptop to be high at eye level, but it needs to breathe so it won't overheat. So you don't want to have your laptop so it's sitting on top of something that will not allow the fan to cool it off. You want to make sure that it's open and that it's really running over something that is porous or already has holes in it. Again, just as we discussed in the last video, this does not have to be, and it shouldn't be, an expensive solution. The one you're about to see costs about $3, and that's about as much as you have to pay. Notice how the area right behind the screen, it's breathed, it's porous, and it has holes in it, so the laptop can actually breathe. And it also raises the level of the laptop so that you can see eye level, so you can see the webcam if necessary, so you can read properly. You can actually have a real conversation with the people that are going to be watching your video. And you can see it a little better here. Again, notice the fact that this allows the laptop to breathe. There isn't a problem with overheating. And one of the things that happens over time is if you have a laptop and you don't allow it to breathe, you will cause problems with that laptop overheating, shortening the life of your laptop, having to buy other pieces, when really this is a really simple, very inexpensive solution that will help you to do that, while at the same time really bringing your PC to the level where you can actually use it. Okay, so with that, thanks, and I will see you in another video. Hello and welcome. Now in this best practices video, we're going to be talking about your microphone in terms of the optimal computer setup. Now, if there's any one discussion that you probably see amongst entrepreneurs and anyone who is doing anything online when it comes to multimedia, it's about finding the best mic for your recordings. And sound quality is important, but there are going to be some other considerations with you using Camtasia 9. If you can have a place where you have absolute silence, any cardioid mic, such as the AT2020, the Blue Yeti, or any of those mics that are USB mics, they're going to produce great sound. However, depending on where you work from, it will probably be rare that you are going to have absolute silence, and sometimes mics like the AT2020 or the Blue Yeti, they will pick up background noise. And it's for that reason that we're going to suggest an alternative, and that alternative is a headset. In fact, a Plantronics headset, which we will show you here in a minute. Now, you're going to want to get the one that costs about $30 instead of the least expensive one. Now, the Plantronics headset plugs into your computer's stereo jack, so it does not plug into the USB port. It basically means you are not going to be using a USB mic. And this is important because a USB mic will always take up processing resources while you record. And when you actually choose to appear in your video, whether or not you're the subject of that video or you're appearing off to the side, this one fact is going to be very important because screencasting software like Camtasia is going to be computer resource intensive. And that means then that your video is going to have latency mismatches where your video is doing one thing and your voice is doing another thing, and that happens often when you use USB microphones. Now, a stereo mic avoids this problem. Now, yes, you are going to sacrifice some quality, but not really that much, and it's always going to be good enough for a solid tutorial. And the other thing that headsets like this do extremely well is noise cancellation, and will not require you to have absolute silence where you're recording from. Regardless of what kind of headset you purchase, make sure you get something that will help you to block out noise on your mic. And that'll also reduce pops in your recording. Now, one of the things you're going to want to do when you are screencasting, particularly with Camtasia 9, is that you want to position your mic away from your mouth directly. This is going to keep you from producing pops. Now, let's take a look at the mic. Again, we're not talking about a huge expense, and these mics are readily available, very inexpensive. And what you'll notice again is that these mics plug into the stereo jack. They do not plug into the USB jack. The latency issue is a big one, and you'll often see it when people are producing video and they have a tutorial video where they appear in that video. Unless you have a massive amount of computing power, you want to make sure that you are making the most of your resources. And if you want to get started using Camtasia 9 before you go out and get a powerful computer, you can do that if you use the stereo jacks in your microphone. And again, here are very inexpensive alternatives to be able to add to your mic, to slide right over to the mic head. And again, this will help you to avoid pops. It'll help you to block out some of the noise while you're talking. Okay, so with that, thanks, and I will see you in another video. Welcome back. Now in this video, we're going to be talking about the best practice of using a production machine. Now, one of the ways that you're going to save time is not having to produce or render, is the other term, your videos on the same computer that you work on. And Camtasia Studio will allow you to use 2 installations for 1 license. As long as you are the person using both of those installations, it's legal within the terms in which you purchase Camtasia Studio. This means that you can place your second installation on another computer that you use. And we're calling this, in this video, a production machine. Now, you will use this computer to do the final processing or the rendering or production of your videos. And the best way to do this would be to use an external drive and to plug it into your production PC. Now, if you use any kind of special assets in your library, you're going to need to make sure that you export those assets out of your library on one machine and export them into the library on your production machine. Now, this means you can either hand over the videos that you create to someone else to render, or you can work on your videos and render them all at once on your production machine and walk away. Now, previously in the course, we talked about how you can batch render multiple videos. In other words, you can set all your videos up at once and then use the batch requirement. And remember that batch can be found here in the file area. And then, if you recall, there is a batch production link. And this gives you the opportunity then to go and get those multiple files for you to run all at once. So if you're creating a course or a series of videos, you can work on the creation, and then you can set all of your rendering jobs on your production machine. What this really means is that you can keep working, so you don't have to worry about all the resources on your computer being taken up to render your videos. You can continue to work on your main PC and then run your jobs on your production machine. You are also then free to run your jobs on your production machine and then do whatever else that you'd like to do. Now, there is an important discussion to have about a production machine, and it is that technically in the terms of service, Camtasia says that you cannot run Camtasia concurrently even if you are the user of both installations. Those are the terms in version 9. Now, in a recent discussion with Camtasia on their social media, it was asked of them whether or not this production machine clause is still valid. And basically, if you look in this area, we verified that you can still use the function of doing production machine, and that this is an appropriate use according to Camtasia if you read this. So even though the terms technically would leave out the production machine out of version 9, verifying with Camtasia as of right now, the recording of this video, that this is something that they are perfectly fine with. But once again, if you're unsure, make sure that you do your own follow-up, that you follow up with Camtasia. You don't want to break the terms of service and then have your license to Camtasia revoked. Make sure that you verify if this is something that you want to do. And it's certainly something that you should want to do, because it will make you much more efficient and it will allow you the freedom of being able to work on your PC while your videos render on your production machine. Okay, so with that, thanks, and I will see you in another video. Welcome back. Now in this video, we're going to be discussing setting up your home network for production using Camtasia 9. Now, we talked about using an external drive last time, and that's so that you can transfer files. So you would produce the files on one machine, save them onto your external hard drive, then take that external hard drive, plug it into your production machine, and then start the rendering process on a second machine while you work on the machine that you do all your work on. But now there are other ways to do this, and if you choose not to go that route and buy an external drive, but you still want to render videos on that production machine or on that different computer, you can actually do so. Now what you'll need to do is to make sure that your home network can actually see, can actually recognize all of your computers and all of your drives. Then, as we said earlier, you'll need to make sure that you have all of your assets on your production machine. So let's take a look at what we mean by that. Now typically, if you have computers connected by a home network, you'll be able to see all of those computers on the same network in this area of Windows. And as long as you can see those other computers, you can actually access their hard drive, provided that you've done all of the networking involved. So what you want to be able to do is you want to be able to see the network drive on another PC. So for example, as you can see this particular computer on this network, even though this is not the computer I'm working on, I can move files over to this drive, and this computer can see, for lack of a better word, into mine. So they can move files back and forth to mine. So what that means is that I can actually access files to do my transfer using my home network. So that when you're using Camtasia 9, and let's say that you want to run a batch job, what you're going to do is you're going to go and add files. Well, where are you going to go get those files? That's when you'll go and get the files from the network, as opposed to getting them from your hard drive. Now, this actually does work best if the files are local, but in some cases what you can do is you can transfer all of the files temporarily through the network. You can operate it that way. If you find that that's too much stress on your network, you can make some accommodations. But the point is that you can use your home network to access files back and forth, and you can use them to run on Camtasia. As we said before, the most important thing is that if you're using assets from your library, these libraries have to match on both the production machine as well as this one. Otherwise, if you start rendering a video, your production machine will look for these assets. And if you don't have them on your production machine, it'll stop the process. So you have to make sure that you've exported your entire library from the computer you work on to your production machine. And you can do that very easily if you just go to the library tab, and then you look for export library. So you're just going to export your library to a zip drive, and then you're going to re-upload it on your production machine. And of course, this is what we've been talking about. You can then have your production machine access the files on your creation machine in order to render your videos. That's really the point of having this network set up and having everything in one place. And this can be especially helpful when you have multiple videos to do and you're going to run these jobs in a batch, and you've either got to keep working or you've got to set it up so that you can start a process, walk away, and then come back to your personal computer and do some work without having the resources tied up. Okay, so with that, thanks, and I will see you in another video.